Sir? Well, Representative Perry returned to the, we already called you, but you weren't here, so you came back, so good. Go ahead, we'll take your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for coming back, and thanks for being here the second time.
I'm trying to toggle back and forth between here and election law matters
We
upstate.
understand.
Once again, Bob Perry, representing Stratford County District 3. I speak in opposition to Senate Bill 318. Our constitutions require three simple qualifications for voting. One must be a citizen of the United States and an inhabitant of the state, or be of age 18 years and upwards. SB 318 is 10 pages in length and represents a substantial departure from current election laws regarding voting. It is based on the premise that New Hampshire is a state besieged with voter fraud, and the only way to contain it is to make it more difficult to vote. This bill serves to create an atmosphere of intimidation and confusion which alone will disenfranchise would-be voters. I have heard it said by colleagues in this House that those who do not vote because of feelings of intimidation, confusion, or being unwilling or unable to comply with restrictive laws do so voluntarily and therefore voluntarily waive their right to vote. Were such reasoning legitimate, can understand how laws could be passed with the specific intent of disenfranchising entire segments of the voting population so as to produce a certain result, and the blame then cast on the beleaguered non-voter. Voter participation in New Hampshire remains above the national average, and according to Assistant Attorney General George, since 2004 there have been a mere half-dozen convictions for voter fraud among perhaps 1 million votes. In his memory, none of these convictions were for impersonation fraud, which SB 318 seeks to prevent. Yet there are those who continue to enter this hall and fan the flames of doubt, who wish to create the perception of voter fraud to serve their own interests. In so doing, they call into question the integrity of the members of the offices of the Secretary of State and Attorney General who have testified in committee to the contrary. There is not a single provision in SB 318 that addresses the very real threat to honest elections. I refer to election fraud as distinguished from voter fraud perpetrated by political operatives. Someone took control of voting machines in Gahanna, Ohio in 2004, giving a presidential candidate 4,258 votes when only 638 people voted. Someone manipulated a voting machine in Volusia County, Florida, giving a presidential candidate a minus 16,022 votes. Until a year ago, New Hampshire used the same software and the same hardware as gave that presidential candidate a minus 16,022 votes. However, our machines continue to be programmed in complete secret by a private corporation. These are the real issues in need of real reform, yet we continue to vilify immigrants and college students and use them to justify restricting individual voting rights through unnecessary regulation. I urge this committee to defeat this bill and work to correct the real threats to honest elections. Thank you.
Representative, thank you. I'm glad you were able to come back.
Thank you for allowing me to come back and hearing me through.
Have a good lunch.
Thank you, sir.
Crop TV.